Hi, how's it going? I hope you're well. Thought I'd try out a different background for a change. Also, it's like 34 degrees and it's like 7 p.m. at night, and my bedroom is just way too hot to be in right now. I'll be talking about the books that I read in February. The first book I read in February was 13 Ways of Looking at a Fat Girl by Mona Awad. As the title suggests, this book is separated into 13 separate chapters. Each are kind of like mini short stories, and they revolve around the main character Lizzie's experiences of being a fat person, and especially a fat girl, and the way that society treats her. So it talks about her struggles with dieting, fitting into clothes, and her struggles with dating and that kind of thing. I think the book is really insightful, and it's definitely a really important topic to talk about. I think it offers a perspective that we don't often get to see, especially because in books and films usually fat girls get relegated to the comedic side character. I did have a bit of trouble connecting with the main character. I kind of felt that she was a little bit one-sided. Her main character trait seemed to just be that she really loved music, and I felt that she could have been a little bit more well-rounded just to get me fully involved with the story. The second book I read was Holding by Graham Norton. It's about a sergeant called PJ Collins. He's working in a little Irish village, and then this body gets dug up in a work site, and so he has to delve into all the secrets and mysteries in the village to find out who the murderer is. I've been so keen to read this book because I love Graham Norton, so I was quite surprised to see that this book wasn't really written in his voice. Graham Norton has a very distinctive comedic voice that he uses on his show and sort of in his like presenting jobs, and so I was expecting that same voice to be used in the novel. It reads very much like a traditional murder mystery book, like a Midsummer Murder style thing, and I thought the writing was good. I thought it was very accomplished, but I found it a bit hard to engage. I felt like he was trying too hard to not be his TV persona, because he obviously wants to branch out and try different things, but I found that this meant it was a little bit standard. But once I got used to the fact that it wasn't going to be Graham Norton as I know him, I did quite enjoy it. I think the mystery was interesting enough to keep me reading. The third book I read in February was The Girl with All the Gifts by M.R. Carey. I picked this up because it's supposed to be a bit of a twist on the zombie genre. It starts off with a girl called Melanie. She is in a classroom with a bunch of other kids, and they're all strapped to chairs, and it's all she's ever known is inside this classroom. So you're not entirely sure what's going on, but you are aware that there is some kind of apocalypse that has happened. I'm not a fan of zombies really at all. Like, I do not like zombie films because, for one, zombies make me just sort of feel physically really ill. Secondly, they're just so like full of despair. Like, it's depressing watching something where you know everyone's probably gonna die, and even if they don't, like, they can't live a happy life because there are zombies. This book actually gives a reason for why zombies are here, which I liked. So it's like this fungus inside people's brains that has caused the zombie thing, and I thought that was really cool because that's something that could kind of happen. Like, it felt really realistic, and so I was really keen to read more of the science fiction side of it. But I found that the book, it had a small science fiction idea, but then it felt like it didn't really know what to do with that, so it kind of covered the sci-fi up with a bunch of action sequences of people running away from zombies, and they all kind of became the same after a while. The characters were pretty well drawn, I thought. Definitely the main character Melanie is a lovely character. The chapters from her point of view I found the most engaging. So it's an entertaining book, but I definitely thought it was way too long. It could have easily been shortened and had, I think, a more succinct and interesting effect. The last two books I read in February were more of the Chrestomanci series that I'm rereading. So this one I actually bought new, which was exciting. It has that new book smell. So this one was written in 2005, which I think accounts for it being heaps thicker. Like, look at that, heaps thicker than the old books. 2005 would have been around the time when like Harry Potter was coming out and Hunger Games and all those massive like thick children's books, and because it feels really padded out, I feel like her publisher was like, oh, Diana, make it thick. Kids want the thick books these days. And it's a shame because It is a good story still, obviously, like all her stories are great, but it does drag on a bit. So it's about a boy called Conrad. He's in a different world from Chrestomanci, and he goes to work in a castle as a footman, and he meets up with Chrestomanci as a 15-year-old teenager, and they are trying to discover the strange goings on in the castle. But yeah, there was way too much detail on exactly what the characters as footmen did. Like, so much detail on them, like scrubbing shoes and like cleaning the silver and changing the bed. Like, we did not need so much detail, which is a shame. I think if she'd taken out a lot of that padding, this would have been like one of the best books of the series. And then the next one is Witch Week, which was written back in the 80s. I remember loving this one as a kid. I think it might have been the first one that I read in the series. And reading it now, it is really dark. It's about these kids at a boarding school, and it's Switch's point of view between mainly two characters, Charles Morgan and Nan Pilgrim, and they are two of the most bullied students in the school, and the bullying is horrific. It's really uncomfortable to read about the extent to which the other children in their class will go to make these two characters feel really uncomfortable and unwelcome. And in this world, witchcraft is banned, so they still burn witches even though it's meant to be set in a contemporary 80s world. And reading it now, it strikes me so much that this is a book completely about discrimination of minorities, whether the minorities are race minorities or LGBT minorities. It really felt like the author was trying to make a real statement with this book. There's one sentence which just made that so obvious. In the story, there's a witch called Dulcinea. She lived in like the 1800s, and she was the leader of the witches' uprising, which were trying to stop people burning them alive, basically. And one of the characters is explaining how Dulcinea said, reasonably enough, that they couldn't help being born the way they were, and they didn't want to be killed for something they couldn't help. This one is definitely the darkest in this series. Like, you kind of don't read it having a good time. It's not like the cutesy magical worlds that you kind of experience in the other books. That was all the books I read in February. Please let me know your thoughts on any of the books if you've read them in the comments. I hope you have a good day. Bye!